This episode of Variant is brought to you by Audible.com. Today on Variant, I give you my top 10 favorite Batman villains. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I love the Lego movie. I'm your host, Arris. For the long-time watchers of the show, you know I'm a huge Batman fan, as I've made it apparent multiple times before. And one of the biggest reasons I think Batman is such an awesome character is because of his villains. I think most everyone would agree that he has one of the best and most extensive rogues galleries in all of comic books. Now, this list was extremely hard for me to narrow down since Batman has so many great villains, but I did it. So without any further ado, here's my list. Kicking the list off at number 10 is the Court of Owls. The Court of Owls were introduced in 2011 in Batman's first story arc of the New 52, The Court of Owls. Even though they're still a relatively new Batman villain, the way the creator of the Court of Owls, Scott Snyder, introduced and set up their backstory made them seem like they've always been a part of Batman's mythos. The Court of Owls is an ancient conspiracy that has controlled Gotham City for centuries. They're a violent group of some of Gotham City's oldest and wealthiest families who use murder and money to wield political influence throughout history. Their basis of operations are hidden in some of the city's oldest structures, existing beneath everyone's notice. Their legend is told only through whispers and a nursery rhyme that bears their name. Which the nursery rhyme is freaking awesome, but the fact that they've lived secretly in Gotham for centuries is also awesome and makes them feel like they've always been a part of Batman's mythos. Not to mention they have freaking cool assassins named Talons, plus just the name The Court of Owls is a good name for a Batman villain, since the owl is a natural predator of a bat. Coming in at number 9 is the Penguin. He first appeared in Detective Comics issue 58 in December of 1941. Like most villains on this list, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who didn't know who the Penguin was, comic book fan or not. I've been a huge fan of him ever since Batman the Animated Series and the Batman Returns film, and love his gritty mob boss-like portrayal in the comics. His real name is Oswald Cobblepot. He's rich and intelligent, which in the world of villains is a horrible combination. The Penguin puts up a gentlemanly front, but behind closed doors, he's an angry, power-hungry criminal. He shows flashes of compassion sometimes, but he is dominated by his desire to be respected and control those around him. The Penguin is an awesome Batman villain for many reasons, but mostly because it's hard to stand out in the Batman universe if you're not insane, but he is able to do that, which proves he's a good villain. At number 8, we have TwoFace. TwoFace was first introduced in Detective Comics issue 66 in August of 1942. Formerly the DA of Gotham City, Harvey was an ally of Batman and Commissioner Gordon until he had acid thrown onto the left side of his face by gangster Sal Maroni, scarring him for life. The incident drove Harvey insane, and he became Two-Face, obsessed with chance and always carrying a double-headed coin, which he flips to determine his every decision. So everything he does is based off a 50-50 chance, which makes him unpredictable. One of the main reasons Two-Face is one of the best Batman villains is because his psychological torment and the schizophrenic struggle he has within. But what makes all this have a huge impact on Batman is the fact that Harvey Dent used to be a friend and ally to Batman, but ever since Dent's accident, Batman's friend was lost forever, only to haunt Batman as one of his greatest foes. Landing at number 7 is Catwoman. She first appeared in Batman issue 1 in spring of 1940, so she's been around since the beginning. And like most boys who were born in the late 80s, I had a crush on Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman in 1992's Batman Returns film. As we already know, Catwoman is a cat burglar who has an on-again, off-again romantic relationship with Batman. So besides her acrobatic skills and being one of the best thieves in the world, what makes her such a good adversary for Batman is the fact that she plays with his emotions, since he clearly has feelings for her, as well as using her sex appeal to seduce Batman. And we all know a guy's biggest weakness is a pretty lady. My number 6 pick is the shapeshifter Clayface. The original Clayface, Basil Karlo, first appeared in Detective Comics issue 40 in June of 1940, but it wasn't until we got the second Clayface, Matt Hagen, in Detective Comics 298 that Clayface got the shape-shifting abilities we know Clayface so well for today. There have been many different people to don the Clayface mantle over the years, but Basil Karlo and Matt Hagen always remain the most loved by fans. One reason Clayface is one of my favorite Batman villains is plain and simple, he's just freaking cool. His character design is awesome, and he can look like anyone. In the New 52, he has evolved to not only be able to shapeshift into looking like anyone he wants, but he can now even replicate DNA to quite literally become a clone of whoever he turns into. Not to mention, the sheer cool factor of being able to make axes, hammers, and all kinds of weapons with your hands is kind of awesome. Moving into the top 5 of this list, and at number 5 is Mr. Freeze. He was originally called Mr. Zero and first appeared in Batman 121 in February of 1959, and later made his first appearance as Mr. Freeze in Detective Comics 373 in March of 1968. Mr. Freeze wasn't always a great Batman villain. In his early days, he was somewhat of a goofy villain wearing a bright lime green and pink costume. In his original origin, Mr. Freeze is a rogue scientist whose design for an ice gun backfires when he inadvertently spills cryogenic chemicals on himself, resulting in his body needing sub-zero temperatures to survive. Amazing Batman writer Paul Dini later changed this when he wrote Mr. Freeze a new origin in one of the best Batman animated series episodes, Heart of Ice. When his wife became terminally ill, Dr. Victor Fries, aka Mr. Freeze, devoted his life to saving her and used cryogenics to freeze her to get time to find a cure. After being attacked by his boss Ferris Boyle and exposed to some of his chemicals, Dr. Fries could only survive in sub-zero temperatures and built a special suit to keep himself alive, becoming Mr. Freeze. The main difference between Freeze and other Batman foes is that he's not a madman like the Joker. Freeze's actions have logic and a deep motivation. His story is tragic and heartfelt, as all Freeze really wants is to find a cure for his wife, which makes him one of the most emotionally driven and complex villains the Batman universe has to offer. His origin has changed again in DC's New 52, but I prefer the latter. At number 4, we have Bane. Bane made his first appearance in Batman Vengeance of Bane issue 1 in January of 1993. Bane, if nothing else, has earned his spot on my list as he's become known as the man who broke the bat, since he broke Batman's back in Batman 497, putting Batman out of commission for some time, which would eventually lead to Azrael becoming the new Batman for a while. Bane was forced to serve a life sentence for the crimes of his father and was born and raised in a prison. There he forged himself into the pinnacle of physical and mental potential. Escaping to Gotham City, Bane pitted himself against Batman. One of the sheer cool factors of Bane is the fact that he pumps a drug known as venom in his body with the touch of a button on his wrist, which makes him huge and incredibly strong. Not only is Bane one of the strongest of Batman's villains, he's also one of the smartest, which is why his portrayal in the Batman and Robin film was a tragedy. A downright tragedy. Sitting pretty at number 3 is Rachelle Ghul. He made his first appearance in Batman 232 in June of 1971. Rachelle Ghul is an awesome villain because he's a villain with somewhat of good intentions. He seeks to purge humanity of crime and corruption, but believes the best way to achieve this balance is to eliminate most of humanity, which of course doesn't go over well with Batman. Rachelle Ghul is an immortal Batman villain. He utilizes his rejuvenating Lazarus pits to maintain his immortality. He also seeks to make Batman his successor, but of course Batman is not having it. Ra's is one of the few criminals in Batman's Rogues Gallery to have deduced his secret identity as Bruce Wayne, but keeps silent on the matter due to the sense of respect he has for Batman. Rachelle Ghul is also the grandfather to Batman's son Damian Wayne, as Batman got hot and busy with his daughter Talia Ghul. So I would say Rachelle Ghul being the grandfather of Batman's son hits kinda close to home for The Dark Knight. I also always personally liked how Rachelle Ghul addresses Batman as a detective, which is out of respect for his intellectual brilliance. But with everything I just said, along with his name meaning the Demon's Head, makes Rachelle Ghul one of Batman's greatest adversaries to date. Actually, his name meaning the Demon's Head has nothing to do with him being a great Batman villain, but it's still cool nonetheless. At number 2 is Riddler. He first appeared in Detective Comics 140 in October of 1948. Riddler is simply one of the best Batman villains because of how smart and clever he is. He is constantly trying to outsmart Batman and is typically portrayed as smooth-talking yet quirky. Riddler delights in forewarning both Batman and the police of his crimes by sending them complex clues in the form of riddles, puzzles, or word games. The reason he does this is because, well, he's neurotic and loves riddles, but more importantly, because the Riddler is obsessed with proving himself intellectually superior to Batman, which is the main reason I like the Riddler so much, because he brings out what Batman is at his root and is all about, and that's being the world's greatest detective. Scott Snyder said it best when he had the Joker refer to the Riddler as Batman's strategist in the Death of the Family story arc, as Riddler is always keeping Batman's mind sharp, which I couldn't agree more with. Coming in at number 1, and not only do I think he's the best Batman villain, but just the best villain period, and that is the Joker. The Joker is the epitome of what an arch enemy is, and was there since the beginning, making his debut in the very first issue of Batman. I've said it before on the show, the Joker is the yin to Batman's yang. Batman himself even said in the comics that the Joker is different from the rest of his villains, that he's about something else and is willing to do anything to make his point. The Joker, in a psychotic way, loves Batman and thinks they make each other better and couldn't exist without each other. In a nutshell, the Joker is just pure madness and utter chaos and has done more personal things to affect Batman than any other villain he's ever had, which makes him easily the best Batman villain of all time. Audible.com is the leading provider of downloadable digital audiobooks and spoken word entertainment. Audible has over 100,000 titles to choose from to be downloaded to your iPod, MP3 player, and played back anywhere, anytime. Choose from books in every genre like science fiction, thrillers, drama, comedy, business, history, and more. Joe Hill actually has a novel on there called Horns, which is pretty good and you should check out. Go to audible.com/variant to get a free audiobook download of your choice when you sign up today. And be sure to check out Audible's newly designed iPad app as well. First up for Wednesday, April 16th, we have Hulk issue 1. Marvel is giving the Hulk an all-new self-titled series, and you should definitely check it out. Here we have Superior Spider-Man issue 31. This is the final issue for the series, and a must-read for any Spider-Man fan. I can't stress it enough. Next, we have Harley Quinn issue 5. Harley has made some enemies along the way, so what happens when a bunch of them show up to kill her? She kills them back, of course. Here we have Justice League issue 29. The Crime Syndicate couldn't kill him, but will grid destroy him. Cyborg heads directly for the Syndicate with the Metal Men at his side. And finally, we have Batman issue 30. The 0-year Savage City story arc begins here with the Riddler taking control of Gotham. Well, that brings another episode to a close, but I do have some honorable mentions since there are so many good Batman villains like Killer Croc, Scarecrow, Mad Hatter, Man-Bat, and Hush. Hush was actually almost number 10 on my list. He's just such a cool villain. With that said, though, let me know what your list would be down below since everyone has different opinions. But you can like our Variant Facebook page to keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Arris_Quinones. But I'll see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics. Everything is awesome! Everything is cool when you're part of a team. 1940.